I don't even know how my feet, bro. Okay, so do you ever go through something and you realize like you kind of like get a little wake up call, and it's kind of like, what the heck is this about? You know what I mean? Anyway, so I'm just on here talking about like my kids and like my babies and stuff. Like for me, like I'm up here and I'm doing this because like it's lonely, and I feel sad. A lot of stuff is I'm going through a lot because my life was heavily disrupted, right? But thank God I have the Holy Spirit. Thank God I have my Bible. I know how to pray. Thank God that I know that I've been here before, but I'm just dealing with a lot of like loneliness and sadness, and like, it is what it is. I could get through it, but like my kids, like the reason why God did a whole lot for me. Let's just start there. So God sought me out when I wasn't even seeking him out, right? Like how do you say? God got a hold of me in the darkest time of my drug addiction. God came to me and he was like, I'm gonna set you free. And this is the sternness of the Lord. It wasn't like, there was a lot of love wrapped into it, but I think that I went through so much that it was so weird how, and this is why we had suffered through a long time, barely even getting free from the consequences of destroying our lives. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about like the repercussions of everything. When I was young, so I caught my drug charge at 27, and then that year, so earlier that year is when he told me, I'm gonna set you free from your drug addiction, but I want you to remember all of the evil that it brought into your life. I was like, okay. I thought it was right then and there, and it probably was, but I don't recall anything, like that or whatever. And so later on down that year, that was April, so May, June, COVID just hit. May, June, July, August, or July is whenever I got pulled over, arrested, PR bond, whatever, and then probation in October for 2 whole years. And that was like how God catapulted me. But mind you, like had I just like learned how to sit down somewhere and be normal and like all this and that, but it happened the way it did, and I wouldn't really change it around because it's a whole part of my testimony. And I wish that I didn't have the drug addiction as a huge part of my testimony. You know what I mean? I wish that I didn't have those issues, okay? But I believe, and I'm a firm believer, that God allowed my kids to stay in the loop with me. And I made sure, just because I was gone and separated from them, whenever we would come together, I would always take them in my room and we would sit in there, and I would just be like hugging on them, and I would just say, do you guys still love me? Do you guys still like want me to be your mom? Because some kids get to that point where they're just like, nah, like I don't care to have you around. I don't want to be around you, whatever. And it's sad because the kid that was the one that has, the way I look at the kids that have a lot of friends and they're popular and all this, they get attacked the most. Whether it could be spiritual or physical, they'll have bullies and they'll have like a bunch of spiritual stuff going on that is manifesting in the physical that they can't even understand themselves. Being a biblical parent and understanding this stuff, I want my kids to be raised by me because I know how to battle these things. And my kids, I've always said this about them, they are good good kids, and they're gonna have huge life purposes, you know. They're gonna have things that I never had. And I'm not talking about like, you know, I don't like, money only spoils a kid, you know what I mean? I'm talking about, I want my kids to be there for people that are, you know, can't be there for themselves, you know, even if it's just talking to people, you know. Me and Easton, me and my oldest son, we have a huge testimony that should not ever be forsaken because of the details that are within it. That God is in the details of our testimony, me and him. So when I had went into treatment and he was placed in the behavioral home, and so like he prayed to God for God to bring me back to him. And I whenever I went into treatment is whenever like my eyes were open to like what I had done as a mother to her children, like breaking. Okay, imagine you have your babies, your children, you take care of them until, you know, you're supposed to be delegated to take care of them their whole lives, right? But then these little children, then one day the mom is just gone, and the children are like, where is she at? What is she doing? Like, you know what I mean? And they don't understand. And so their trust that they ever had in the parent, me, was damaged and broken. And it destroyed me mentally. I didn't go on like, oh, I'm just gonna be hurt and just stay in my meth addiction. No, I was foolish and I was selfish in my drug addiction. I didn't care about nobody. I didn't care about nothing. And it wasn't because I didn't care about my kids, but I was so engulfed with getting on drugs. I was so engulfed with it. And but I always knew to strive for getting off the drugs. So I voluntarily did treatment. And these weren't like the 45-day, 30-day stints in treatment. No, these were like 3 months, 5 months, 7 months, you know. And then there was like 2 little 45 days in there, but that's nothing, you know. But I ultimately knew that I wasn't gonna get clean outside of the treatment. You know, I knew I needed something more, but I didn't know it was Jesus. So whenever he shows up, but yeah, so in treatment, it broke me that I unknowingly didn't even want to, but did break my kids' trust within me. So I always made it an effort to kind of sober up, go back to my family home, and kind of coop up with my kids and say, you know what, like, I love you guys. And I'm like, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm so sorry, this and that. No, I wouldn't be like that. I would just be like, yeah, like, you know, I still love you guys. Do you guys love me? They'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, do you guys miss me? And like, yeah, we always wonder where you're at. Like these were heartbreaking moments that me and my children have together. Like these like little stories, they're so heartbreaking. Like, and it's like a stigma thing that happens in this world. You know what I mean? Like it's, you know, it happens every day, but and there's no support for the mothers that are out there, like, you know, just kind of lost for a moment, you know. There's not really no like loving understanding for them types, you know. It's just like, oh, well, you're a lost cause, and you know, you're never gonna make it out, and you know, whatever. But I did, and this month would be 5 years sober, clean and sober, you know, in totality. Like, I can't even, like, God, and this is why God is upset with, I think he was upset with me, because we sit on these testimonies like as if they're meaningless, when this has huge meaning. But the people that I was around, they make me feel like that, because they're like, you know, like, like we seen you when you were down and out, and we don't, you know. No, God doesn't treat me the way you guys think you can treat me. No, God treats me like that's my daughter. I saved her from drug addiction, and now she is good now, and she can tell her testimony now. You know, I stood her up straight, and I put clean clothes on her. I put clean garments on her, and she's good now, you know. And no matter how many demonic attacks you have to suffer through, because it sucks, you know, but um I miss my kids so much, and I just know that we are, like, things are gonna get better, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. But we cannot go off of our feelings, because feelings change every day. You know, feelings lie to us, and they change every single day. So it's just best not to, go off that or whatever. But I know that I was doing a good job. I know that there was nothing bad. There's nothing, and I just have to get through this little snippet of my life or whatever again. And God, I think God has his way of putting us through things again and again until we actually become the person that he wants us to be, so we can be used by him. And it's hard, because I need people that are going to be like, okay, like this and this and this and this. Like, I'm such a, like, I need, like, managerial people around me to help me, kind of like, and just a bunch of things. But anyway, I'm not screaming for it, and I know God is, like, gonna unfold everything. I just have to be loyal, faithful, humble, kind, and do whatever I gotta do. It hurts not talking to my kids. Like, I think about my kids all the time.